It's a very, very old friendship, which goes back to that time and so on. Then we got to know each other. Then I met him in London, and he came to receive me at the railway station, I think it was, and I spent the day with him. And we went to ABC for tea. He insisted on paying for the tea, although I knew he wasn't broke, but he was fairly hard up those days, you know. He was quite perfect actually in his manners and what is right. That was him. I mean, I think this was his earmark. You know, he was in London with hardly any money. His wife Sakina used to work at Thomas Cook's, and I think she was, like most of us painters, the bedrock on which painting happened, you know. And he had a very hard time actually. He spent a lot of time in London. He bought a house himself. Al-Qazi went there and tried to help him. He offered to help him. But he said no, and he took on a mortgage somehow or something. He went to a bank, as a matter of fact, and the bank told him that it was the first time that they were loaning money against paintings, which is, he deposited paintings and got some money. And Tyeb wrote to me, I think, saying that he's coming back and he would like to stay in Delhi. And I was showing with Kumar. I asked, I told him, I said, Tyeb is coming and he's going to be living here and working. Why don't you give him a contract like you've given me one, you know? And Hussain had it, Ram Kumar had it. So there was a history of contracts. I'm probably the only gallery who gave a contract in those days, you know, and gave me a contract also. So he said, okay, you vouch for him as being a good painter? I said, yes, he's a good painter, and more than that, he's really honest about his work. He's very, very honest. Do you think he's as good as you are? So I said, he's much better. That's what I told him, just like that. So he gave him 500, and Tyeb stayed there and was very loyal to the gallery and vis-a-vis. The gallery was very, very pleased to have him, you know, there. He had a show with Tyeb. I bought a painting from that show, Falling Figure. He did the first Falling Figure, which he did exhibit it in that show, and I bought that thing. And I paid exactly 350 rupees for that. I remember that, you know. But that was a good enough price in those days. If you could get 350 rupees for a work of art, then you were able to somehow scrounge a living, you know. I mean, with that kind of money, one managed. He wasn't too silent about what he felt, but he was not eager to start expressing himself all the time and whenever it suited him. No, he didn't. Silence was another great virtue on his part. You had to draw him out. And when you drew him out, he was quite surprising. I mean, I remember a dinner party, for instance, the famous American critic was in town and came to dinner at our house, you know. And he was holding forth on American art and all the rest of it. He listened to all this and he said, can I ask you a question? He said, yes. He says, have you ever been wrong? And it silenced everything. It wasn't being aggressive. It was absolutely in the line of what was being said and all the rest of it, and the confidence with which this man, Greenberg it was, because Greenberg thought he was a cat's whiskers, you know, he had it all. And Tyeb was an artist in his own valley, right? I mean, then just because he's not an American expressionist doesn't mean that he ceases to be an artist, you know. And so he was holding his own, but in a very, and his remark was like a riposte, you know. It silenced Greenberg. He couldn't answer this question. You know, it's abundantly clear if you see the extent of his painting. There are two things which mark his paintings from anybody else's. One, the first one is a common factor, that he was dealing with a human situation and the ups and downs of the human situation. But he doesn't stay alone on the human situation. In other words, he's not wringing your tears or anything like that. It stays there as a proposition. It is there, he's seen it and so on. And it's supported by structure. And the structure is very, very definitely his own. And it's sprung out of his capacity to draw, his capacity to be extremely fine in drawing. I mean, he creates illusions in his drawing as well, you know. He's a very fine draftsman. And now, so this is the armory in which he bathes his thoughts and everything which is there. Falling figures, not falling figures, other figures, things happening, and he can't be a human being, he can't be an artist and be completely oblivious to, shall we say, the seamy side of life which he's seen. He saw the riots, you know, underneath his house, people were being killed and whatever. And those images don't go away, you know. You can't reduce them, you can't get rid of them. They're there. You've got to reckon with them, and he reckons with them. And since he's a painter, they enter into his work, but it is sustained forever. Anyway, he made a film which he called Kudel, which meant meeting of places. And so it's a series of incidents which he's played. And there is a central theme which is that. He went to the abattoir, if you pleased, and he photographed what was happening, what happened. And he was shattered, and it's something that went through Tyeb and stayed there for all his life, you know. The shot he took of a perfectly good bull being shot and then rolled over, so raw in its impact. It was really, really raw. How can we destroy something which is that powerful and so on, you know. It's a wonderful film that he made, and it's not a heroic film. It doesn't you don't start clapping at great shots. I mean, there are some wonderful shots, but very, very subtle shots. And subtlety had actually, Tyeb's paintings became more and more and more sophisticated, and I wouldn't say they're not at all sentimental at all, but full of feeling, which is quite another thing. We had wonderful friends. I mean, I remember one Holi, Hussain, Geeta, Tyeb, Sakina, they all turned up and I was in the bathroom and so on. There, get out, get up, get out. We came out and there was much colour throwing, much love, much hugging. And then a wonderful photograph was taken of this thing which I've got still, you know, in great amity, in great love, in great friendship, all of us there. And that's what, you know, bound us together in a sense, you know. And still does, even whether they're not there. I mean, I lost all of these friends that I had, you know, I mean, amongst that crew, of the painters and so on. My friendship with Tyeb grew enormously because I used to stay with him when I was in Bombay. I stayed there, and we went out for long walks. As long as he could take, because his heart was giving him trouble. So we could go by the seaside, which he liked very much, and waltz home. It was not an excessive, you know, it was not partying in that sense. No, once in a while we would Hussain would throw a party at the coronation Darbar, you know, We all forgather, Akbar Padamsi, Tyeb, and so on. I think the love and amity amongst all of us was very much there. That's what kept us going. He lived to see his paintings being regarded well, being spoken of well, and his position in Indian art was more than secure. He had a sizable gathering outside the country as well. His value was being acknowledged, and it was. I'm just sad that he died when he did. I mean, I think the country lost somebody who was so talented and a gem of a person, a huge, terribly honest person. You know, you couldn't buy him out. He was beyond all that kind of thing, you know.